Hello? Is anyone out there? Hello? I feel like I'm studying by myself. Krakow, hello. Matthias, hello. Harand. Okay, some people here. That was good. Connor. B3K. Josh. Twabok. Chrism. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, I'm not just studying on me, Todd. Okay. 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 AC, hello. Right. Fun one today. Well, we're going to attempt it. I'm by no means an expert, but I am using the bleeding edge trunk build of GCC. So bugs abound, but we'll see what happens. Oh no, reflection is in C++ 26 reflection. No, that graphics stuff. No, I'm bored of that. I want to go and I want to write I want to write the worst C++ you have ever seen. Yeah. And maybe I should update the title to be serialization with reflection. I'll get onto the plan today in a second, or maybe now. Who knows? But yeah, indeed. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I've upgraded my compiler, and now I just want to play around with it. And I thought, what better way to try out a new feature than live in front of a bunch of people where I don't know what I'm doing? That sounds like a reasonable use of my time. Having never used Golang, let alone the reflection package, I don't know. So in C++, it's all compile time. So it's all const expr, const eval, gubbins. Indeed, live and improv. Right, so let's press a button. Okay. So let's get it going. So I did a little bit off stream. I don't like to do too much off stream, but I did a little bit. So the first thing I did was, oh no. Hang on. Let's rebuild this. Okay, while it's rebuilding, spoiler alert: I've done resource packing off stream, which is what you're seeing now. But the important thing is, I didn't make the mistake I made last time, where we have to pack the resources every time we make a change. I've basically packing. We'll go through the code changes in a minute, but I'm packing specific resources to make them faster to load. So the load time for the game now is better. And we don't have to keep packing resources. In fact, we should only have to have that once. It's because I was dicking around with something before, and I forgot to undo my changes. Yeah. Yes. I will. And there's compression and stuff like that. So I suppose I could just go through. Let's go through the. Right. Let's go through the change log then, so I can kind of show you what we've been up to. In fact, actually, I wonder if is this. Nope. Okay, fine. Okay. So what have I been up to? Not. It seems like quite a lot, but not. I wouldn't say it's a huge amount. Okay, so. Yeah, I fixed all the texture compression stuff now, so that's all working out. So first thing I did was I upgraded the Docker file to build with GCC trunk, so that's now done, and I fixed some CLI. Well, I broke CLI, but then I went back and fixed it later. So I did an initial resource packer. So what the issue we had, one of the reasons it was so slow before was because we were finding all the FBX files and then iterating through them. So in each you don't need to know the code. It's just more like the commit. This is more just for me to tell the story. The actual, we'll go through the code explicitly as I go through it. The issue was every FBX file was loaded, gone through async, converted into our in-game format, and then uploaded to the GPU. So what I've done now is I've written a little resource packer thing, which basically does everything that the code main was doing before, but in one go, and then it builds up that massive global array of all the vertex data and index data in one blob. So basically the idea being, because we store all of our vertex data contiguously in memory on the GPU, we were like passing the FBX file, doing a load of async gubbins, getting the vertex data, growing the GPU buffer by a little bit and sticking it in, and then doing it again and growing it. And it was a massive pain. So what this does is this basically gets all the data in the right form that we want the GPU to have it, and then sticks it in one file. So in our mesh manager, this now has some new constructors which allow you to pass it the initial raw vertex data. So the first thing it will do is it will just squirt all that straight into the GPU. So loading all the meshes is now, it only takes as long as it takes to read one file off disk, and it's compressed as well, so it's even smaller. So if we go to main, I've got this new function called this builds the mesh lookup. So this passes that text from build materials. Where is this? Mesh manager. Here we go. This just decompresses the vertex bin and index data blob. So that's super quick now. And then the textures, I've fixed all the DDS textures. I now use the proper formats for albedo, for sRGB and non-sRGB, or unorm, whatever it is. And I use BC5 for the normal, so they're compressed into 2 channels. And then I decompress them, or I reconstruct the Z1 on the GPU. It's those like boring, like boilerplate stuff, but basically all the DDS textures are now in one big blob, and those are compressed, and then those get decompressed and basically passed through and loaded into the GPU. So it's nice. It's much quicker now. Also, what we have is manifest files. So these get produced by that resource packer. So this is a YAML file which basically says, this is the mesh, this is the vertex count, vertex offset, blah, 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 and then where all these are. So it has all the information we need now in a YAML file, so we can just pass through this. And again, because these are all static meshes that we just load at the same time at the beginning, like unless we add more static meshes, which we're not at the moment, like more model files, we'll never have to rebuild this, because it can still load the shaders and all the other assets from this, from the file resource loader, and it should fall back to those if it can't find these. So it's all reasonably tickety-boo. So that's made a massive difference to the startup time. And then if this runs now. And then I did some other tweaks as we were going along. So this, it was all working a second ago. Hang on. This is my fault. Just before the stream was starting, I was like, you know what? I could add the gun model and meshes to the secret resources, and then if we get time, we could load a gun in and start playing around with that. And obviously, it's not in any of the right formats. None of it works. And now I've massively balked everything. So anyway, let's go back to what else I've done. Oh, I've now changed the version system because I realized semver was pointless. Having major.minor.patch is kind of pointless for a shipped executable rather than a library, because I was only ever incrementing the minor number. So now it's calver. So every build is now year.month.day.build number. So you should see this now in on the left here. You can see here that these are, I had 5 releases that day because I couldn't get the build system to work, and the build system now works. The CI works. It should package. It goes back to using the embedded for the release for the CI build. It still produces all those vertex blobs, but it uses hash embed, so you still get single self-contained executable out of the CI build. So that's all pretty good. I converted all the right sRGB textures and everything, and then there's actually other visual stuff I would like to show you. So yeah. I was having a terrible time with the release. I don't want to talk about it. Right, well, this is really upsetting me now because this is absolutely a massive waste of my time because this was all working a second ago. What has differed? Well, you're going to have to watch me fix this live now. Lane 226, sure, but what texture is failing to load? Just run this under a debugger quick. I'm pretty sure I reverted all my changes before. I never, 5 minutes before a stream, never try and do something quick. Like, what a waste of time. Okay, so what's unsupported? I would quite like to know what texture am I trying to load? Metal plate 01 normal DDS. That should be. That should be fine. My concern is that I've somehow reverted a change that I didn't know I had. How bizarre. Okay, let me have a quick think about this. Let me just make clean and make config. Let me just do a clean build while we chat. But also I've now brought in like a YAML library, so that's all ready to go. Oh yeah, I just use VS Code for the debugger because it's better than just staring really hard at the code and trying to figure out what the bug is. That's a Git, yeah, it's called lazy Git. Okay, so the plan for today was to look at. So what we should have now is. How do you install it? Go to their GitHub and follow the instructions. Because I need a Windows debugger, right? Because I'm actually cross-compiling from Windows and running it through Windows. So VS Code will still allow me to use the min-GW build of GDB under the hood, so I kind of still get all the symbols and everything. It works for me. Okay, fine, let's build this one more time. Okay, right, so I think that the graphics now are kind of at a point where it's kind of good enough for us to kind of progress. There's more and more stuff we could do. Like we still need to do, I mean, bitmaps. We still need to do Bloom. We still need to do anti-aliasing. I still want to do like decals. But I think those are all kind of like, other than decals, they're probably all kind of like nice to haves, I think. As in like, I think we can make progress with what we've got. I think we've got a solid foundation, and I don't want to keep just working on the render indefinitely. What I want to do is make some progress in other areas and then come back to that and add some polish later, so we can kind of see that at rapid iteration. Windbag exists, but I just kind of refuse to use it because it's a massive pain in the ass. I really don't like it. But that's just a skill issue. Okay, right. So basically, my plan is now once we. So what I was trying to show you is that we can now list. We now have a list in the editor of all the models, and we can click and add them, and so we can now start building out levels. So what I want to do is add serialization, so that anything we change to the scene automatically gets written back to a YAML file, and then when the game loads, it picks up that YAML file and loads it. So we can have persistence. So we can start building out some mock levels. Then I want to add the. So this is the rough plan, is to do level serialization, then job system and multi-threading, because I think we really need to add that before we add anything big. Then add jolt physics, then add animation skinning. And I think after that, and maybe add back Lua scripting. But basically, after we've got those things, I think we're kind of at a good enough point to start building out some game logic. And then we can go back and tweak the graphics later. So that's kind of my rough linear path now, is to do serialization, job system, physics, GPU skinning, or add model bones animation thing and ragdolls. Okay, so I really hope this works, because I really have zero interest in debugging them. I want to debug the mess I want to make today, not debug the mess I made earlier. Unsupported DHGI. Which is DXJF format 83? Okay, fine. We're just going to have to look at this. Main 226. Apologies. I literally ran this earlier. How annoying. Oh, there's a line missing. Hey? Oh, like there's literally, it's not wrong. Where did that? I might have to git blame this later. Yeah, I'm missing the BC5U one. How weird. I wonder if that was just in my working tree. Sorry. Whilst how bizarre. This'll work. Yeah, I got myself to right, okay, here we are. Okay, right. So one other tweak I did was I improved the SSAO. So now, as you'll see here, it now writes to a red channel only texture. So it doesn't take up as much GPU memory. It also renders it at half size rather than full size, and I did a cheeky little blur in it as well. So now it looks like a lot. It looks a lot nicer. There's much less artifacts. Also, you can now enable and disable it, so you can kind of see the effect it's having. And then there's all the dials and stuff, so we can like tweak it. So all these dial changes here all need to persist, right? So we need to be able to say like, oh, so I actually only want 32 sample. Well, I don't want that, but I know I want it really thick dark lines or whatever. Then when we load it back, these settings should come back. One thing I did notice though is that if you drop the sample count, and I assume it's maybe to do with the maths, to like 11, I think, you start getting these like black artifacts. But I assume that's just my terrible coding. I'm not going to be too high for HDR rendering. Okay, so the ambient light, what needs to come down? Ooh. And then we can just pop this up to. Ooh. Thought you could change that. Anyway, so that's all done. The other tweak I did was now when you select a model, you see all the clip of all the textures for all the submodels. It just helps with debugging. You'll notice now the normals are this sort of like really sickly greenish yellow. Not a nice greenish yellow like chartreuse, like a miserable one. That's because they're all packed into two channels, and then you reconstruct the third one in the GPU. Apparently that's better. So yeah, so now 6 watt. Anyway, oh god, I really hate the way it doesn't notice that. So yeah, so now that we've got that, we also now have a list of all the things, which is really nice. So these are all the things I have. They're not in alphabetical order, and they probably should be because it's a real pain to find anything. But say we wanted, like, I don't know, a service tunnel. We can have a service tunnel. Or say we wanted, I don't know, corridor 2884 bottom D, one of my favorites. We can have that. So now from this, we can really start building out like a level. What else is a good one? Corridor. So yeah, so what I think now is we can basically start building out like something we could actually not walk through that obviously, but you know, bear with me. But I want this to persist so we can kind of start moving it around. And there's obviously lots of UI elements we need to add, and we'll be able to like probably duplicate stuff, probably delete stuff. But yeah, I think that's kind of the plan. And then it's nice. These are all kind of like multi-level as well, so we can have multiple levels to this. So yeah, that's kind of the plan today, is to be able to start creating levels, and then we can add physics to it, and then we can basically have two cameras. We can have a player camera and an editor camera, and then I think from that we're basically kind of ready to start running around. Then at some point we need to slap a gun in there and pew, 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 pew. But anyway, just to catch up on where we're at. That is where we're at. Yeah, I'm trying to build the tooling as I go along, right? There's some interesting stuff in here. There's those like details and stuff like light fittings and doors and other cool stuff. Big old gate, that might be useful. That's cool. But it all lines up quite nicely. It's all modular, right? So this now just sits here, which is nice. And then we could maybe, you could see having like a door here or something. I wonder if that's why it's so tall. Oh, you're welcome. You are welcome. And then we can move this over here like this. See, look, right, look, boom, level design, nailed it. So you crushed it, mate. The SAO looks so much. I think I will eventually replace it with a. Sorry, we're 20 minutes in and I've not actually started coding yet. I think I'll probably replace this with a better, more modern SSAO implementation. Like, isn't it like Horizon? What's the NVIDIA one? The Horizon something AO Plus? I think I might slap that in here eventually. But for now, like, it definitely adds a level of depth and realism. Right, okay. Enough this chit chat. Let's make sure I've got the right. Okay, so let's start off. So we're in 26 mode, and then I need to add -f reflection. Okay, this gives us access to reflection. Bear in mind, I am using a unreleased pre-build of GCC, so there's what that means is that I can blame any issues on a bug in the compiler, and I'm actually have a small chance of being correct rather than just my own lack of skill. Yes, Horizon-based AO. Yeah, I think might try and drop that in. Oh. Right. Anyway, so let's start off small. So what I'll be using, and then I'll send this link to everyone. You can follow along at home. Is I will basically be cribbing from the reflections paper. So this is the ISO C++ WG21 paper that proposed and was accepted for the reflection spec, and it's basically the golden truth for reflections at the moment, in that there is kind of no other material because no compiler officially supports it in their main released version yet. But it's basically got everything we need in here. And in fact, this even has like a canonical enum to string, which we'll be cribbing from to start with, because the first thing I want to do with reflections before we even get onto the serialization is drop all this gubbins. I absolutely hate this. This is really useful, right? It's useful to be able to give it an enum and then have it converted into a string for logging, but it's an awful lot of manual work. And like, we don't need this anymore. This is a solved problem in the year of C++ 26. Oh, I do have another NeoVim instance running. I might have to quit that. Anyway, fine. So let's go to formatter. So we currently have a custom formatter, right? So this allows us to call std format on any object that we want. And the way we do it is, we went through this before, there's a little bit of modern-ish C++ in here. It uses something called customization point object, or CPO, and effectively it boils down to this, right? Where given any object that we want to format, if it has a toString member, right, or there exists a free function called toString that takes that member, then this will automatically invoke either one of those two and then pass it on to formatter. This is great. This is what we want. So this is why we have to have, like, for every single enum, we have to have a toString, right? And I'm just kind of fed up of writing this, right? I want this to be no more. So what we want to do in here is we want to add a third match. So if there exists, and if it's an enum, and presumably if it doesn't have a toString method, because I don't want an ambiguity with all the existing code, then something reflect it out. I mean, sure, we'll give it a go. I believe I have formatter tests, right? So this tests all this already. So let's do enum class my enum AAA BBB, right? One of my finest enums. So what we want to be able to do is do test formatter reflect enum. So we should be able to do, I could probably template this on parameter packs so that the test is generated for each one, but like, no. Auto res AA equals the, actually no, it's probably even using that. We want to just do assert equal third format my enum AAA, and that should become AAA, right? So this will obviously fail to compile, right? Because we've not added a toString method, and I believe if we try and even build this, we're going to get a load of miserable errors about std format saying there's no specialization of std format for this type. Today I'm working on serialization, and I have thoughts on serialization, and if we have time, we'll hopefully get to that, I can go through my thoughts on serialization. So this is, unfortunately, if you've ever done anything with std format before and not formatted correctly, this is the kind of error you get, which is not great, but it basically says std format must be specialized for the type of format arg. You can see that here. If I let go, I'm going to lose my space because my terminal is shite. And now I've lost it. But yeah, it's basically saying we don't support it. So let's go to formatter. All right. So what we should be able to do is basically do something like, we'll build this up in steps. So class T steady requires third is enum T and not that. What am I dreading the most about it? Oh, there's two things I'm dreading about doing this. One is hitting a compiler bug because it's still factory pre-release, and the other is just the miserable errors and not being able to Google or search for anything because no one else has really done this yet. So yeah, so this should now match any enum that doesn't have a toString. So this should now build, but the test should fail. Right, so let's build this up step by step. Let's check that we can effectively add an overload. Oh man, formatter is included everywhere. Thanks, C++. This is the main disadvantage of having heavy templated header-only code, is that each change is going to affect an awful lot of translation units. Okay, so that runs. So let's do make tests. Okay, so that failed. Build tests gtest filter equals formatter star. Okay, fine. So it's expecting A and it got no. Okay, right. So now, new. I do love new header day. Meta. Okay. And now we should be able to do. I'm gonna try and remember. See how much of this I can remember before I look up in the paper. But it's you want template for const expr auto. Oh, by the way, Clang D is not going to understand any of this. E in stud meta enumerators of. I think I need like a static memory thing in here. Reflect T. Okay. There's some lovely new syntax for you. So get the enumerators of the reflection. I think I need stud define static array. So basically, stud meta enumerators of monobrow T will return a vector of stud meta objects, and a stud meta object is an opaque handle to the reflection data of a type. So this is entering effectively the reflection space and saying, give me a vector of all the reflections of all the enumerators. And then you need to define static array so you can still access it const expr time. This is called template expansion. This is called an expansion statement, which basically it's kind of like compile time loop unrolling. It will generate the contents of the body for each iteration, which means you can effectively have the modifier as const expr. Normally you can't have you can't do for const I equals 0 I++ because you can't mutate it, but this allows us to effectively use const expr in a loop body. MSVC does not support only so there's a fork of Clang that supports it, and then GCC trunk supports it. What's the big moment or daydream or experience that's keeping you motivated on this project? Reflection, mate. Like, we're here, we're doing it. This is what I've been dreaming of since we started. No, I'm not using any global lighting. It's Blin Fong all the way for me. Okay, so now we should be able to do if obj, right, is equal to splice E, right? So this takes the stud meta info object and converts it to, I want to say, value space. This is what effectively pulls the stud meta out and allows you to interact with it. So I'm going to splice this back into a value, okay? And then if that's equal, then I should be able to return stud meta identifier of E, right? Because E is still a stud meta info object, right? And then this returns a string view to some statically allocated string representation of your enum, and then we just return unknown at the end. I might have some issues because my API says I need to return a string. I don't know if I need to manually convert this to a string, but something like that should work. Questions, thoughts, feelings? How are we feeling about reflection? Okay, what am I missing? Blah. Doesn't like my identifier of. Could not convert meta from string view to string. So I think all I need there is stud string. So what I want to do is I want to write a reflection-based serializer. So we should be able to take effectively the end goal of this is to be able to take our scene, reflect out all the information that we want from it, write it to a YAML file, and then take that YAML file and convert it back into a scene object. Do I use decal type? I mean, when I need to. What have I done? I've got reflection, haven't I? Oh, I tell you what. Classic. This needs to be public, because it's going to be in a header, the unit tests won't have access to it. So by sticking it in public, any target that links against the lib target will inherit these flags. When will C++ reflection come to major compilers? Couldn't even tell you. Don't know. This is going to be in mainline GCC 16 when it gets released soon. Like I think we're talking like weeks rather than months. But as soon as GCC, this is coming in GCC 16 along with concepts. Along with contracts. I'm just using the trunk build of it. It basically means they're still fixing bugs before they want to release it. So we might hit some of those bugs. But this should be like the last enum 2-string code we ever write. Yeah, I mean, we're going to give it a go. Like serialization is hard, and is just the story of serialization is the story of trade-offs, right? Everything you pick is wrong in some way. What I'm going to do is mix in some bleeding edge C++ into that to make it somehow more wrong. So yeah, reflection as in like compile time reflection of C++ syntax. I mean, I think we just reflected. I think we just reflected hard. What do you mean by the explicit values of the enum class? This will give you a vector of meta infos over the members in there, of which there are like, so you have to like, you can splice that back out to get the integer value basically, yeah. So you could do absolutely crushed it. I suspect if you wanted the value, you could do, that's not the two underlying key. I suspect you do something like that. Interline. Because this splices it back into as a value. Okay, absolutely. We nailed it, mate. Done it. Hang on. Let me just fix it. Let me just commit this bug first. Fix missing DDS format, and then reflect enum 2-string. Oh, so nice. So what we should be able to do now, right, is texture data, right? We can absolutely just like sack this off. I mean, I'm always open to more collaborations. It really depends what people are kind of have time for and to do. I know Cherno's specifically working for a new business and stuff. I don't think he's got a lot of time, but everyone I've kind of collaborated with has, I think, both sides have enjoyed it, or at least I have, and we've sort of always parted saying we should do this again. Why do I not return a string view? Because the original designer had returned a string. That may very well be an error on my part, and we should have returned a string view. I'm just trying to think if that's viable. I don't actually know. I think you have to return a copy because it uses the 2-string method. Would that always return? Those could return a new string which would need to be owned, and that ownership would need to transfer through. So I think you might end up with a dangling pointer if you just use string view, I think. Okay, right. Let's go on a cleanup. Where else am I two stringing? So I really want to. So also, like, one thing we should also be able to do, which maybe we'll not do now, but in the future, is stuff like vector3 two string. Potentially, we should be able to reflect that out because it's just a trivial type with all public member access, right? So there's no reason we should need to write this. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Who's got a two string that I don't want anymore? I'm looking for ones that are part of an enum. Buffer, mesh manager. That's needed. Command buffer's needed. Right, if I've only replaced one, then key state. All right, sack hue off. Oh, is this? What is key? Oh, it's an enum. Oh, yeah. Oh, I see. Look, now when I add more keys, because I obviously don't support them all because I'm lazy, don't need to add those anymore. That can sack that off. I bet all the other events have them. Maybe it's just that. Yeah. In fact, actually, an easier way to find all these is to search for using enum, because that's an idiom I use a lot. That's a converter, that's a converter, that's a converter. Here we go. Don't need this anymore. Be gone. All the best diffs are red. Look at all this code it saved us. Wow, this is assuming it still runs. Yes, but what I'm saying is the string view you get from the stood meta identifier of will always be static, but the machinery that it goes through for our formatter expects a string to be returned, and other things might go through that aren't the reflection, and they will always have to return a copy. That's what I was saying. Sad face. I bet I'm missing a mouse button state. Maybe I got ahead of myself. So what the mouse button state? Why does that? Where's this being called from? I'm probably just missing the formatter, potentially just missing the formatter included. God, this is an absolute nightmare. This. Where in my code are you having a bad time, matey? Mouse button event CPP. I've got the formatter there. Oh, I just didn't save that file. That would be a linker error. If I left the declaration in the header file, I'd get a linker error, and it's fine. I think I just forgot to save the file. Oh, now I've got a linker error. What are you? Shader type. I like how some of them I split between the header file and the CP file, and others I like just inline it. Who cares? Okay, nailed it. Remove old enum to string. Hello. Right, okay, right, now I'm pleased. Let's make the source serialization. Copy source coordinates to serialization. Source cmake. MNOPQRS. Told? What have I done wrong? Okay, so serialization is tricksy, right? Because there's kind of a multitude of ways of doing it. Ultimately, I guess ultimately, oh, I see, did I? Oh, yes. Thank you. Okay. Ultimately, we want to be able to take a concrete C++ object and turn it into some form and persist that somewhere or transfer it somewhere and then do the inverse on the other side to get the object back. That's effectively the point of serialization. I am not a fan of having intrusive serialization. I don't want all my classes and all my methods and all my classes and all my structs to have like a to serialize method. That is pretty it couples the serialization implementation to that of the class, which means if we want to change the serialization method later on, we'd have to go and change all the classes. You can bring that abstraction out a layer and have the class accept some sort of serializer object and then have some sort of inheritance hierarchy. So you could have a JSON serializer, an XML, a YAML, whatever, and then you pass that in. But again, I still feel it's like muddying the interface of the object. Like, if my philosophy is that if your object is kind of well formed with good constructors and good effectively getters or public methods, then you should be able to extract enough information out to then pass it back into the constructor. Yeah, you can have static serializers, you can have all these things, right? But again, like I don't want to be touching every single class. We will have to do that a little bit because it's impossible to almost impossible to not. But for basic stuff like vector3, right? This has an x, y, z. So we could write our serializer and be like, if it's a vector, do .x and stick it here, .y stick it here, right? Then you'd be like, if it's a quaternion, get these and figure it out. Again, I want to avoid all that. Like reflection should solve all this. Basic trivially copyable classes with public things, right? We should, in theory, be able to reflect those out and shove those into a YAML file. The tricky one is something which has invariants, right? Oh yeah, this is a fundamentally difficult problem to solve, but I want to kind of have a go at solving it with some new tech, basically. So a scene owns all this data, and these are all again all pretty trivial. Yes, you could inherit from a serializable class. But again, right, so scene here is kind of interesting. If you look at the data of scene, right, it has vectors of entities, right, and entity cache, right? But it also has a bunch of references to things. Like I don't want to persist the mesh manager. When I construct my new scene, I should pass in whatever mesh manager has been constructed sort of a priori. But I do want stuff like the entity list and the camera and the lights. So there is some logic behind here. And yeah, I think someone basically said like we're going to have to create some sort of descriptor object. So I think complex objects should return a descriptor, which is just a pod, not a pod because we don't call them pods now, which is just a trivially copyable struct basically, which has enough information to reconstruct the internal invariants plus whatever else and then you have a constructor which takes that plus what other gubbins you need. So we will have to muddy this a little bit, but I think it's cleaner to basically say here's a description like of what I am. And then that you could use that for logging, for serializing, for transferring over network, for whatever. Do you know what I mean? So I'm kind of happy to make that concession because the actual serialization code, like the business logic of that, will be entirely elsewhere. So effectively what we need to do is we need to write some code that can take any struct and turn it into YAML and reverse it. And then once we've got that, we've got all the building blocks to start doing it. Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of the plan, right? I'm going to use YAML because I prefer it, but ultimately it doesn't really matter. I'm also not going to do like a iSerializable kind of hierarchy, which because I don't need to be able to change the serializer at runtime. Like I either have a YAML file or I don't. And I don't need that kind of level of flexibility. Also, because a lot of this is going to be templated quite heavily, that's an absolute nightmare to do with inheritance anyway, potentially. Like you can't have a virtual templated method, for example. So yeah, let's see what we get to. So I'm going to do e source serializer, and then I'll have a YAML serializer. .h. Doesn't mean we can't have a JSON serializer and an XML serializer and a binary serializer and a TLV serializer and all that gubbins later, but like these are going to be sort of like I think I don't even think they need to be classes. I think they just need to be functions, right? Unknown argument reflection. Okay. Oh yeah, it should be serializer. Thank you. Oh, hang on. Thank you. Right. We're going to C++ as of 26 has first class reflection support, so there's no parsing of files. It's all done at the source level. Okay, so I think the best way to do this is probably to drive it through tests. I'm torn about the best way to test this because I was thinking about this earlier. We could test serializing and deserializing separately, right? Which means we only have to work on one at a time. But it does mean we're going to have loads of rando hard-coded YAML strings in our test, and I'm not a massive fan of that. The alternative is you round-trip it, so you just test that you can go from object to intermediate back to the original object, and then you only have to check the equality of the original object. I suspect doing it separately is better because it gives you more control over, like, I think it's easier to track down bugs and write better test cases. We might have to suck up that there's going to be a load of rando hard-coded YAML all over the place. XML, understandable by neither computers or humans, and I've no real experience with XAML. Okay, let's do this. Let's do tests. What do I call them? Tests. YAML serializer test CPP hash include gtest / gtest.h hash include serialization / YAML. Sorry, it's also for any Americans out there. It's definitely without the Z. Test YAML serialization. Simple. Another one for your bingo card here. Assert true, false. CMake tests. Test CP. I think that's probably all we need. Make build. Yeah, gtest is like a massive collection of almost magic macros, especially gmock. It's all right. Build, test, debug, unit tests, gtest, filter equals YAML star. Okay. Oh, how do I get the color? I'll do gtest color equals yes. Pains me to have to drop the U. Okay, right, so we've got a failing test, so we're already off to the races. So let's do YAML serializer. I don't know why it doesn't like F reflection, because that shouldn't be in my ClangD file. It's pretty... That's gonna be a real pain if we see that everywhere now. Do I get that in main? Oh well, I'm just gonna have to suck that up. Just be prepared that there's now a warning in every file. Come on, Clang, hurry up. I wonder if you can silence that in ClangD, like ignore that warning. Anyway, one cannot stand in the way of progress. So template class T auto YAML. Do I want namespace YAML serialize, or do I want YAML serialized? Like, it's a really minor thing, but it's going to be an absolute pain to change once we do it. This seems strange because we've not used it anywhere else, but I don't really like rando namespacing on function names because that's the point of a namespace. This is the least hard problem to solve today. I'm going to opt for this, I think, for now. Oh yeah, actually that's true. If we have this, then we might be able to use ADL to our advantage. And then we're going to want a forwarding reference object, and then this is going to go to a std string. Okay, so we're basically there. Okay, how do I've got some prior art for YAMLing. Let's do hash include YAML CPP YAML.h. Let's do auto out node equals YAML. I think it's node, and then do no. I just want to get something going. YAML begin map node YAML key k this is going to help us start to figure out how we're going to figure reflect. How does one convert this to a string? Because I use the emitter, so it writes it to a file as we're going along, but I don't want this. YAML. Hang on. Ooh. I think it all works off streams. Which I hate. It's not an R-value ref, it's a forwarding reference because it's a template. This means it will bind to whatever is passed to it. It preserves the value category. So if you pass it an L value, you'll get an L value reference. If you pass it an R value, you get an R value reference. Is that not how one not YAML this way? That's annoying. This is literally how I do it. Over here. But again, I'm using the emitter, which must be different. YAML CCP tutorial. This is like, again, driving YAML CCP is like the least interesting part of this. I need an iterator. An iterator to what? Oh, like something like that. I just want like an example use. I really hate it when you have a GitHub page. See tutorial. There you go. Fine, I'll take it all back. That's passing. How do I building nodes? Here we go. Oh, do I just do like that? Okay, fine. So let's see if we can wire this up to a test. This is going to be easy because what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to reflect out identifier of name here and then get the value, which is going to be sweet. Yeah, let's do as a test. So let's do struct simple int a. Let's keep it super simple to start with. So we have a simple struct. Struct. Auto. In fact, actually, we should be able to, because we've got a. Let's do const auto result equals UFPS YAML serialize simple dot a equals 12, and then assert equal result. Oh, hello. Yeah, I think it's very similar to Nahot. So I have done some reflection before with this, so which is key value. Okay, so that's what that's the kind of thing we get out. So we're expecting, presumably then, what we're going to expect. Oh, hang on, I'm going to try. No, I'm not. Const auto expected equals R. I want something like simple A 12. I think that's what we're going to expect, right? I reserve the right to change my mind. In fact, actually, this might need to be here. That's what I was saying. You're going to end up with those random strings. I think that's what we want, right? Let's go something. So you give it the struct name, and it tells you the things inside it. Okay, let's see if we can YAML serializer. So we're going to want, I guess the first thing here is going to be std meta identifier of t, right, equals YAML node. Create a new node. I assume it's a node. Like the whole point is nodes is a node base. So this will become a child node, which we can have a key value pair within it, I guess. So look, boom. Right, so you get the name out. Nice. So now we're going to want we're going to need some concepts to restrict this as we go along. Because, well, the thing is, like, I'm not producing this as a generic library for people to use, so I can take certain liberties with, like, making it not as like safe, as in, like, I don't have to be like fully restrictive on the concepts. We should do as much as we can, but like if you pass the wrong thing in and like YAML explodes at the end, it's kind of, I say your fault, it's my fault because I'm the only one using it. Okay, cool. So we got that. So in fact, actually, what we want is auto members equals YAML node, right? And then at the end, this will be members. So we'll build this up first. We're going to have to be careful because we're probably going to have to recurse at some point if we have nested structures, but let's just keep it flat to start with. Like the point of this stream and probably Wednesday stream is just to build this out, like the bare minimum that gets us to where we want to be. All right. Template for const explorer auto e equal member e equals std what was it? It was define static array, obviously. Define static array of std I think it's like non-static data members of t, right? We're gonna need a context here. Context for autos ctx equals std meta. I think it's access context current. Right, a lot to unpack there, but there's let's check this. Right, here you go. Non-static data members of passing command line. No, blah, blah, blah. Right, okay. So you some of these functions in meta require an access context, and this is how it restricts what can be reflected. So current means you have the same permissions as you do in the current scope. So you can't access privates unless you are a member function, right? So if your ops here had a private member and this function was not a friend of it, it wouldn't iterate through them. If you're doing current within a member function, then it would get all that. There is other ones of these, which I think, I can't remember the exact wording, but it's basically like, let me do what I want, and you can reflect out private members from a class from any context, and I think you can even access the data in them. So you can use reflection to break encapsulation, which is kind of terrifying, and I'm kind of not really into that, so we won't be doing that. So most of the time we'll just be doing access context current. Absolutely bloody nailed it. So this should, right, give us all the data members. So we should be able to do, okay, members, third meta, identifier of E, right? And now we can, remember, we can splice. So we can do obj dot splice in E, right? Because you can splice on kind of anything. So this will splice this meta info as into a dot operator on this object. Unprivileged and unchecked. Thank you. I knew there was some I can't remember what the wording was. Do I create new member variables when deserializing? So you can use reflection to build up members of a struct. You can basically forward declare a struct and then use it to inject new members into it, but I don't think we'll need that. I haven't thought too much about the deserialization yet. We'll get to that in a minute. I have identifier. I have identifier. Yes, reflection can use annotations, and you can even use custom annotations as well. So the alternative is we could basically use the privileged context to loop through every single member in a class, and we could tag them with the ones that we want to be serialized. But again, I feel that's kind of bleeding information into the class. But there's nothing to stop us saying tagging something like do serialize this, don't serialize this, and then we can introspect that there. I think the best way to learn about something like this is just to kind of get down and do it, because there's going to be loads of issues. Stood data member resolvers. Did I mean stood meta? Oh, I did mean meta. What have I done wrong? GCC trunk supports it, basically, is the only one. And there's a fork of Clang, but it's way behind trunk. E should be E, line 19. Oh yeah, thank you for getting basic syntax, although I'd say basic syntax in a very non-basic form. Just keep adding more brackets. It's just the indentation. There's no way. There's no way this works. We're doing it, guys. We're reflecting. We reflected the shit out of that struct. That struct doesn't know which way it's facing. Whew. It's not actually like a lot of code. Do you know what I mean? Like, the concept is a little bit hairy, and the syntax, I will admit, the syntax is strong, right? Template 4, all this gubbins, double carry, splicing, but it's really not that much syntax. Like, that is, obviously this doesn't handle nested objects. It doesn't handle vectors or maps or unordered maps of objects. We've got to basically be slowly adding that now, right? Right once, cry once, yeah. Yeah, I mean, this, I dread to think how complex this has been for the compiler devs. Like, I really dread to think. Because it fundamentally changes the language, right? This is a fundamental shift in C++. Like C++26 is the postmodern, the meta-modern version of the language, right? If 11 was modern and 20 was postmodern, then 26 is the meta-modern. Okay, let's add some more stuff. Let's keep going. Let's not stop here. Right, we can only stop for so long to congratulate ourselves before. It should support all the basic types, right? So let's try int a, float b, it's the string c. Bool's always a funny one because who knows what that's going to come out is on the other end. A dot b equals 1.1234 and let's see 3.1.1592654 and then dot c equals hello world and then dot d equals true. So this is going to be multi-member, but hopefully you can now start to see, like, if we build up enough primitives, it's not that much effort to then just make it work with one of our existing classes. Like vector, this should almost just work with vector, right? You should just pull out X, Y, Z from the members and like Bob's your uncle. Equals 3.141592654. C equals, now a string in YAML are strings quoted. And is that true? It's fundamentally different. Like OStream kind of serialization is you're offloading all the work to the class itself. So the class has to know how to serialize itself and has to then use some sort of either specific format or some sort of format agnostic interface that you pass to it. Whereas this is just like your class doesn't even know it's been reflected. Like you're putting a fast one on it. There's no way of opting out either. I seem to have lost D in there and A. Well, hang on, which way around am I? So it's... Oh, no, because it's a diff, isn't it? So that's fine. Oh, it's rounded the float down. This is the problem with doing it with rando strings, is I'm basically kind of incentivized to just like match the output. Right, let's... There, boom, nailed it. Reflected. We want to do... let's do arrays next, because I think that's going to be an interesting one. So let's do std vector of int a. Do an enum. We could... Oh, what a great point. Yeah, we're going to have to do enum as well at some point. Let's add it to this. Well, so what we're going to want to do arrays, maps, nested structs, and enums. I think that's will probably get us like 99% of the way there. Why struct? Because everything's public by default, and then I don't have to worry about access modifiers. It makes my life a lot easier. Do I want... No, I'm not going to do references. Like, if you need a reference, then you should take that in the constructor, and you won't be serializing that. That sounds like a nightmare. I'm going to assert at this point that, as far as I can tell, I only need to serialize actual data. If the data lives outside of your class, it's not being serialized. So, I mean, YAML does have types, right? But once the YAML code just has overloads for all of them. Because remember, this, when you splice in the E, this is effectively the same as writing. Once this template has expanded, this is equivalent to writing obj.a, obj.b, obj.c, etc. And this square bracket operator will have overloads, presumably, or sorry, this will return a reference to something that can accept all these. So I think I think YAML CPP does a lot of the heavy lifting. We are just driving their library through reflection, right? That's kind of the goal of this. Yeah, again, no cycles. Like, because I only want to serialize code I'm writing, this is not a generic serialization library. I can imply whatever restrictions I want, right? So no cycles, no pointers, no references. Serialize array equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, just to check it's not doing anything funny. So this will be array. Is this then? Is it like this? Well, I don't know what the YAML syntax for an array is. Or is it like this? I don't like I'm kind of discussing it as I go along, and I get your point, but like I don't think this will lead to a bad system. I think it might lead to a overly simplified system which we can expand, but again, by just driving the YAML parser with some reflection, I don't think it's from where I'm standing, it looks absolutely fine. Okay, I wonder which one it's going to give me. I assume you can customize the output, like when you stream it. So I wonder if this just works. I wonder if YAML can just take a rando vector, or if I need to reflect it out further. It just takes a vector of ints. Absolutely wild. I bet it won't take a vector of rando. That's one thing we should take, though, is arrays, and then after this we'll do arrays of structs. But I am kind of surprised that just works. Yeah, this is all open source. The assets aren't, but you can look at all the code. Oh man, we are absolutely flying today. There's got to be a problem somewhere. There's no way it's this easy. So this is going to be... I'm actually going to just leave the string output as it is, because I have no idea what this is going to produce. Got a lot of A's here. Get there in a minute. All right. Yeah, the devil is definitely in the details of this. Struct without any public members, is the output valid? Oh, I don't know. I do not know. Looks like I failed to. If I. Yeah, so this can't construct it from this, right? You can see here YAML's like, I don't understand how to assign T simple. I'm gonna have to think about this a little bit now. The most obscure C++ feature I can think of. Oh. Placement destructor. That's pretty obscure. Oh, sorry, placement deleter. Sorry, not placement destructor, placement deleter. Yeah, but the thing is though, I've got to think about it here. We can do if is struct, but I kind of want YAML to handle the base case still. Yeah, so const extra type traits hash include concepts stood is struct decal type E else that. Interesting to see if that actually runs and builds. No, wait a minute, hang on, no, because E is not. It's going to be a. Christ, it's going to be if it's not a struct, it has to be if it's a vector of structs, right? So it's substitution, but I don't think I want that. I think that's going the other way. I need to do. I think I might have to use this. I might have to use some like Sphinx for this. Can you write a concept which is basically a vector of something? Well, I'm gonna have to differentiate between maps and vectors eventually anyway, right? So I might as well start doing it now. But yeah, I guess I see what you mean. You could just sort of just stood is trivial. Could do if it's a range. Oh, interesting. Yeah, that might be if is range. Still doesn't like. It's still expanding this. I saw there was a is range concept. Okay, what am I trying to do? Hang on. how I've done this before. Let me just see what I did. I think I used Spinay. Stood ranges range. Okay, fine. So stood ranges range. Splice. I can't just do E, can I? That's where you find that. I've done all the easy bits, now the hard bit resets in. So it expects a type, right? But it wants a. So how do you get the type? It can't just be that, because that'd be a submeta info. And that's incomplete. So why does? Ah, hang on. Am I missing something? Type. Type of. I think I want the meta type of E. Ranges. Range. I don't understand why that's not liking it. Okay. Type value mismatch at argument 1 and template list, template type T, template body. Expected type got meta type of. So what does type of return you then? Type of just gets you the info. If R is a reflection designated typed entity type of R, typed entity type R is a reflection designated its type. Okay. So does that mean I then splice it? I think I need to specify out as a type name. It's a bit lame. Ah, bottom. Yeah. Okay, fine. So that breaks the other array, so that's fine. So yeah, we need type name that. So get the meta info of the type, not the value, splice that out, get the type name of it, then check its range. That's fine. So I think I want something like, let me think. What's the best way of doing this? So I struct template class t struct serialize vector, right? And then we could do template class t struct serialize vector stood vector t. Right, so we could partially specialize it. That would allow us to pull the t out of the vector. And then we could do operator, auto operator, call operator with a auto node auto constant vector t back, right? Actually, let's be explicit here. YAML node, okay, and then void, and then for const auto v in vec node dot pushback vec v. So I think that might work for the base case where it can already do it, just doing it explicitly, but we could try that. So let's do auto vec node equals YAML node, and then do serialize vector am I gonna have to specialize it? Probably type name stood meta. I don't think I'm gonna have to deduce this. And then I guess we would just do members equals the move node. Something like that. I think the safest thing to do is currently disable that. See if we can build that back up manually, and then we can further specialize it, because I think we're going to have to hoist a lot of this logic out and then make it so we can recurse it into the different that's going to be input, isn't it? The different members. Nope, I completely forgot. Oh, I bet this, even though it's if const expert, will still, is that still going to try and instantiate it for the other types? Because look, it's trying to instantiate it for no, I thought I saw it. Hang on. Yeah, it's as incomplete type for this. So why is it trying to pass a string in there? Why is it trying to pass a string in there? I feel like this shouldn't be matching this, right? Why is... Unless, I guess, even though it's if const expert, it's still going to try and instantiate it. So I bet I actually need to probably have some sort of base case for this, which is a little bit annoying because it means it's going to be hard to tell. Just like fucking accept anything, mate. I don't care. Yeah, but string is a range, but the outer class isn't. Oh, I see what you mean. Yes, of course. Yes, because it's going to do it through every member. Yeah. Sorry, I see what you mean. Yeah. That's easy actually. We can just let's just undo all that. I missed that. Let's just do a specialization for the string. I think this needs to just be serialized range. And then we can make it a full specialization. Okay. Yeah, sorry. I thought it was going through the outer class. I forgot it was going through all the members. Serialize. Oh, of course. That's some grim C++. That. Like, if you've just tuned in and never in C++ before and you see that, you'd be like, nope. Okay, right. So back to where we started. So now what I want to do is have it so that if I probably want a similar thing, right? Serialize object. Is that going to... in fact, actually, I probably could do this with overloading now. So, auto serialize. YAML node template path t t obj so if I want, basically what I want to do is I want to basically say if this pushback serialize which nodes, do I need to create a new node? This is tricksy now. So what am I thinking? I need to disambiguate between custom objects which need to go through a new process, right? Because you've basically got this which creates a new node. You can't partially specialize functions, right? And I wanted to pull out I thought I would need access to T. Yes, you're right. So they just need to... can I be like requires stood is integral T, or stood is floating point T, or stood same as T stood string, right? Can I put requires on a partial specialization? Yeah, so let's do template class T concept base type equals requires T stood same as T. Sorry, stood is integral T. I don't know why it doesn't let me do the ORs. I don't know what I'm missing. Missing that, so that's the same as. No, I'm not. I've got it. It's there, isn't it? Yeah. Is that not it there? I don't think you can comma separate them. I don't think that's it. No, that's good. I might be overcomplicating it again. Hang on. Wait a minute. I think I'm overcomplicating it. If constexpr, sorry. If constexpr stood is integral T, right? Right. Do like that. What am I being stupid? The integral is definitely a concept, isn't it? Oh, it's not the concept. Sorry, I think it's integral. There you go. Or stood floating point T, or stood same as T stood string, right? So if it's any of the base types, then I should be able to just push it back, right? Yeah, okay, fine. Nailed it. All right, so else. So now we're in the case where it's probably a object. It's probably an object, right? So this means we now need to, for each element, push back a new node and reflect out the types. So let's do node, right? Okay. And then let's do auto node equals node turn node, and then we can just take this. We might be able to hoist all this out, by the way, and just make it this serialized. But for now, let's do. So we're going to go through all the static members again. Get rid of this, and this, right? Node dot pushback serialize v. Instead of handling leaf cases inside the complex types, you could use a single serialized function. Yes, yeah. I'm largely kind of puzzling this out as I go along, but you're probably right. There might be a better way. I think I want to get something working and then refactor it as we go along. Yeah, mate, that's not gonna work for you. Else, just else. Okay, right. So back to where we started. So if I go to the tests. Will this now? I just want this to blend. That. So this becomes V. It's my one. A 10, B 20, C 30. I'm a mother flipping genius. No, womp womp womp. Of course, they're all A's, aren't they? I am just getting ahead of myself now. Straight after the "I'm a genius" comment comes a very simple typo. I think AI will struggle with this because it will not have any concept. It will not have consumed any reflection code yet. This could be. My terrible reflection code could be how an LLM learns to do reflection. Yes. Yes. We're nearly at time, but I want to keep going for just a little bit longer because I'm enjoying myself. This is fun. This is what coding, this is what programming should be about. Okay, so we've got array of structs and arrays, and then I guess maps is the next one. And then maps of structs, right? I think we'll just keep building this up and just keep refactoring. I think every time it's so new and bleeding edge, this, I think I'd have to sit down and think really hard about what the end result would be. I think it's much better to just keep throwing new stuff at it and adapting it as we go along. No, I think we'll do. I think enums will be that hard. It's be yanking the formatting code we've already got. Will you try using PR and vector with custom allocator? No, because my design doesn't need to use multiple. Like, I don't need runtime, access to the. I don't need the allocator to be a runtime component of any of the containers, and therefore be able to move between different allocators. I think for what I want to do, std vector is fine. If there's not, it doesn't mean I might not need a custom allocator, but I'm happy with it being a compile time component rather than a runtime component. Yeah, we're just figuring out as we go along. We're just having fun. So let's do struct map. All right. Include unordered map. Stood unordered map. I don't know, what are we thinking? The string to int a. Oh, I'm gonna need some more specialization. Array of members struct. So mapo map a equals ct 1 seems like a fair. If this blendos. Okay, it's not gonna like something in values function type. Okay, fine. So now I think this code once reflection is kind of a bit more in the zeitgeist and used a bit more, it'd be really interesting to come back to this code, I think, and be like, I'm sure be like, what the hell was I thinking? There's obviously a better way of doing it, but I literally don't know like what the right and wrong way to use it is. It's just the right way is the way that works. So now we need to specialize. So this is interesting actually, so because we're using the partial specialization, we can actually pull out class key class V from this, right? So if we have a range of stood unordered map key V, right? We can just I didn't have this syntax here was a little bit, it could have been, it doesn't have to be an operator overload, right? It could have just been a static function. I wonder if a static function would be better, because otherwise we end up in this miserable mess. I might change this super quick in and out. Static. I think you can have static operators now, can't you? Was that a 23 thing? So I don't actually have to. I don't actually have to instantiate the class. I know there's the static square bracket operator. Too many. I might change that. I can't remember if you can have the static square bracket operator, but you might not be able to have a static call operator. Static array operator. No, it does have C introduced static call operator. Paper for it, mate. Of course it was Barry. Of course it was Barry. I assume it's got accepted. Overload operators that member function. Yeah, so this should work. Why is it being funny about it? Ordered map KV map. I assume GCC supports it. Too many initializers. Yes. C++ support Let's just see if they support it. I mean, let's use the feature P1169, P1169. A static operator thing has been in GCC since 13. There's no excuse for this to not work. I don't understand why that's not working. I don't really understand the error, if I'm being totally honest. Too many initializers. Is it complaining because of this overload? Or is it complaining because I've just fundamentally changed how it all works? I could just make a static function. Like, I'm not that married to it. Oh, it's for the... Why does it think that's an incomplete type? An instantiation of stood string serialize. Yeah, that's fine. A map is a range because it has a beginning and an end. It is not implicitly convertible to a vector. I'm changing too many things at once. Let's comment out this new test. If I can get the map working, I think that'd be a good place to end it. Okay, it doesn't like this, so let's just... That's a... To be honest, that is... Let's keep it non-static for now and just instantiate an object. It's really not the end of the world. I will think about that. Probably could be const though, right? But I guess it doesn't really matter. Also a few more square brackets. Also a few more brackets in there. I'll have to think about that. There's obviously some corner case of the language I am missing. Okay, so now we have access to... Now we have a partial specialization for a key, for a map. So I think I just need to do probably something similar to this. This needs to be this needs to become a concept, right? But for auto, okay, be in map if. Just gonna keep it the simple case. We're gonna figure this out. So this should become. I think we might say that the key always has to be a basic type, right? Because I don't. What would it mean to have a struct as a key? But this should just be k equals v, right? So that should work. Yeah, I can't see how making it static causes the error either. It could be a compiler bug. Okay, oh, look at that. Yes, I'm a genius. Oh, unordered, isn't it? Does that mean it's non-deterministic? So yes, but what it means is that this could change between compiler versions, though, if they change the hashing algorithm. That's my only concern, right? Apparently you can have a struct as a key. I'm going to say you can't have a struct as a key. In my world, that is just too much writing. Why is it extra indented? Have I got an extra node in there? No. Remove the Oh, you're so right. It's not. Yes. Thank you. Yep. I don't actually understand how YAML works. We're doing it. Do we cheeky do something else? Got map of structs. Just trying to think. I want to end on a high. I might end there. I want to end on a high. Okay, not miserable. So let's just first pass YAML serialization with reflection. What stream are we on? It's been a while since. Sorry, no actual gameplay today. Stream 25. Map of structs is the same as array of structs. Well, they can have different keys, right? So I guess that's the only thing. Yes, the map's ordered, right? Well, I mean, saving it in a tree is an implementation detail. It's just guaranteed log n time with ordered keys, but I think the tree is the only way really to do that. Possibly, yeah. I think we'll figure it out. I think we'll figure it out next stream. Okay, so I feel really good about this. I think this was an excellent use of a Sunday evening. Got to try out some new code. I'm not sure the design is well, sorry, I know the design is not perfect, but I think it will come out in the wash as we go along. I'm not convinced I need spinatrix to do this, but we'll see. It does work. Other than that, we'll keep. Oh yeah. Reflection. Other than that, next Wednesday we'll bash out the rest of this, and then we'll start integrating it with the rest of the game because we still actually need to reflect some real things rather than just made up structs, so we can double check all that. I think the deserializing will be super simple. I don't think I have any YouTube GIFs. Oh, I do. Well done. Don't go. Yeah, I know. Like the problem is though, like I'm just kind of used to using Spin-A, so I'll probably rewrite it with concepts later. It was just enough to get me going. New video like soon. Like I finished filming, I'm editing it right now, so I'm hoping new video by the end of the week. That is my plan. I am away pretty much all week for work, which means Wednesday stream is potentially delayed or cancelled depending on the internal happiness of my train, but we'll see. I fully plan to stream Wednesday. We'll bash out the rest of this, and then we're going to do concurrency and threading and job system, and that's going to be super fun and an absolute nightmare. And then yeah, then we've basically got a game then and call it quits and we'll go home. Right, I'm going to have a beer and hang around Discord for a little bit. I might do some editing, I might not. It's impossible to say. But I think we are having fun, and that is the most important thing. And I will see you all anon.